There was a smell that hit you the moment the escalator carried you to the top floor. Frying bacon, strong tea, warm pastry. For decades, the BHS Café was where Britain caught its breath mid-shopping trip, trays sliding along steel rails past a counter groaning with cakes. Then in 2016, the shutters came down, and 88 years of British retail vanished overnight. These are the 25 forgotten café meals every shopper ordered, the dishes that fed a nation between the knicker department and the light bulbs. Let's begin at number 25. Number 25, the prawn cocktail, was the height of sophistication served on a plastic tray. Pale pink prawns nestled on a bed of shredded iceberg, drowned in Marie Rose sauce, that magical pink blend of salad cream and a shake of paprika. A wedge of lemon perched on the rim of the glass dish, and a triangle of brown bread and butter sat alongside, cut with municipal precision. For shoppers in the 1970s and the 1980s, this was what you ordered when you wanted to feel a bit fancy, when the trip into town was an occasion rather than a chore. Mothers dabbed at the corners of their mouths. Children pinched prawns off the top when nobody was looking. It cost little more than £1, yet it carried the glamour of a proper restaurant. When prawn cocktails fell out of fashion, so did the small ceremony of ordering one under fluorescent cafe lights. Number 24. Cream of tomato soup with a crusty roll warmed 1,000 cold Saturdays. Ladled from a steel urn into a thick white bowl, that orange-red soup steamed against the chill you carried in from the high street. A buttered roll came wrapped in the sort of cling film that fought you, and half the pleasure was tearing it open and dunking. It was rarely made from scratch. Everyone knew it came from a tin, and nobody cared. The cafe version tasted of comfort, of sheltering from the rain with wet coats hung on the back of chairs. Pensioners nursed a bowl for an hour, spinning out the warmth and the company. For under £1, it bought you a seat, a rest for aching feet, and the small dignity of a hot meal at the halfway point of a long day's shopping. Number 23. The egg and cress sandwich arrived pre-made and utterly reliable. 2 triangles of soft white bread, the crust sometimes left on, filled with mashed egg, and a scattering of peppery cress that clung to your lips. It sat under the counter in its little wedge-shaped packet, waiting for the shopper who wanted something quick, something light, something that would not stain a new blouse. Office workers on a break grabbed one with a cup of tea. Grandmothers bought one to share with a grandchild, cutting it into even smaller triangles. The egg was always a fraction too wet, the bread always a fraction too soft, and that was exactly how it should be. It asked nothing of you, and gave a simple, salty satisfaction. When the cafe closed, so did the last honest sandwich counter on the high street. Number 22. Cheese and onion quiche with a side salad was the choice of the ladies who lunched. A wedge of golden quiche, the pastry a touch soggy at the base, the filling wobbling with egg and studded with sharp onion, served cold beside a modest heap of salad. That salad was a museum piece in itself. A leaf or two of limp lettuce, a slice of cucumber, a quartered tomato, and always a curl of cress. A sachet of salad cream came on the side. For the shopper watching her figure, or simply fancying something continental, the quiche felt worldly and refined. It was the meal you ordered when you wanted people to think you were being sensible. 2 friends could sit for an age over quiche and a pot of tea, bags at their feet, putting the world to rights before the shops shut. Number 21. The ploughman's lunch turned a scattering of cold bits into a proper meal. A wedge of cheddar sweating gently under the lights, a spoonful of Branston pickle, a crusty roll, a pat of butter, and a pickled onion that made your eyes water. Sometimes a few grapes appeared, or a token piece of celery nobody ate. It was invented as a marketing idea, but by the time it reached the BHS Café, it had become a beloved fixture, the choice of men who wanted feeding without fuss. Fathers ordered it while their wives browsed the homeware. The joy was in the assembly, building each mouthful yourself, cheese and pickle and bread in the proportions you liked. For a couple of pounds it filled a hungry stomach and asked no questions. It was Britain on a plate, cheerfully beige and quietly satisfying. Number 20. Beans on toast fed the youngest shoppers and the tightest budgets alike. 2 slices of toast, slightly too pale, buried under a ladle of Heinz beans that inevitably slid off the edges and pooled on the plate. It was the cheapest hot meal on the menu, the one a mother ordered for a fidgeting child while she managed a cup of tea and a moment's peace. The beans were never quite hot enough in the middle, but drowned in orange sauce, nobody minded. Some added a grating of cheese for a few pence more, watching it melt into orange strings. It was nursery food, the taste of being small and looked after, of tea time and cartoons. In a department store cafe, it grounded the whole grand operation in something humble and homely, proof that even a national chain understood what a hungry 5-year-old actually wanted. Number 19. Cheese on toast bubbled under the grill in a way home kitchens struggled to match. Thick white bread, a layer of cheddar grilled until it blistered and browned at the edges, sometimes with a splash of Worcestershire sauce for those who ordered it done properly as Welsh rarebit. It came on a warm plate with a garnish of tomato that steamed alongside it. For a chilly shopper who wanted something more than soup, but less than a full meal, it was the perfect middle ground. The smell of it drifting across the cafe made other diners glance up from their trays and reconsider their own choices. It cost pennies to make and pounds to buy, but the markup bought you the grill, the seat, and the warmth. Simple, molten, and gone in 6 mouthfuls. It was comfort food stripped back to its purest form. Number 18. The jacket potato with cheese and beans was a lunchtime institution. A great, fluffy, baked potato, its skin crisped and salted, split open and buried under grated cheddar, and a lake of baked beans. A knob of butter melted into the middle if you asked nicely. It arrived on an oval plate that was always too small to contain the overspill. For the shopper who wanted filling and cheap and hot, nothing beat it. You could feel virtuous ordering the potato while quietly ignoring the mountain of cheese on top. Office workers, mums, and pensioners all found common ground over the humble jacket. It steamed when you cut into it, and the first forkful of fluffy potato and molten cheese was worth the wait in the queue. It was honest food, unpretentious and generous, the sort of meal that fueled an afternoon of trudging round the shops. Number 17. Chicken in a basket. Brought a whiff of the 1970s bistro to the department store. Golden breaded chicken, or sometimes roast pieces, piled into a plastic basket lined with a paper napkin, a handful of chips wedged alongside. It felt indulgent, a little bit naughty, a little bit American. Children thought eating out of a basket was the funniest thing in the world. The chicken was crisp on the outside and steaming within, and there was always a small pot of something to dip into. It was the meal that made an ordinary Tuesday feel like a treat, the reward for behaving through the boring bits of the shopping trip. As tastes moved on and fast food took over, the basket quietly vanished from British tables. But for a generation, it remains the taste of a childhood outing, eaten with fingers and pure delight. Number 16. Scampi and chips carried an air of seaside sophistication inland. Golden breaded scampi, 6 or 8 little parcels of them, served with chips, a wedge of lemon, and a pot of tartar sauce dotted with capers. It was the meal that let a landlocked shopper pretend they were on holiday, the crunch of the breadcrumb giving way to soft, sweet scampi within. Ordered with a squeeze of lemon and a good shake of vinegar on the chips, it felt like a proper treat, a step above fish fingers, but friendly enough for anyone. Couples shared a plate. Children stole the chips. The tartar sauce always ran out first. For a few pounds, it delivered a taste of the coast in the middle of a grey town centre, and when the cafe closed, it took one of Britain's most cheerful little luxuries with it. Number 15. Fish and chips. With mushy peas gave the chippy a run for its money. A fillet of cod or haddock in crisp golden batter, a generous pile of chips, and a scoop of mushy peas so green they seemed to glow against the plate. A slice of bread and butter came on the side to make a chip butty, and a lemon wedge for those who wanted it. It was the cafe's most serious main course, the one that filled a working man properly. The batter shattered under the fork, the fish flaked white and steaming, and the vinegar cut through it all. Shoppers who could not face the queue at the seafront settled happily for this, and rarely felt short-changed. Served under strip lights on a melamine plate, it was the taste of Friday, of tradition, of a nation that has always known exactly what it wants for its tea. Number 14. Gammon steak with pineapple was the retro showstopper of the hot counter. A thick pink gammon steak, griddled at the edges, crowned with a golden ring of tinned pineapple, served with chips and a scoop of peas. Sometimes a fried egg sat alongside instead of the pineapple for the traditionalists. The sweet and salty combination felt daring and modern when it first appeared, and never quite lost its charm. It was the meal a husband ordered to feel he had eaten something substantial, the plate cleared with quiet satisfaction. The pineapple ring was either the best part or the part left at the side, depending on your generation. For decades, it anchored the cafe menu, unshakable and unfashionable, a slab of proper meat for a proper price. When gammon and pineapple faded from menus across the land, it took with it a small, sweet, salty piece of British dining history. Number 13. The all-day breakfast reigned as the undisputed king of the cafe. A full fry-up served at any hour you liked, no matter that it was 3 in the afternoon. Sausage, bacon, a fried egg with a runny yolk, a spoon of beans, a grilled tomato, a mushroom or two, and a triangle of fried bread to mop it all up. The plate arrived heavy and glistening, and the smell of it drew envious looks from every tray in the queue. Shoppers who had been up since dawn for the sales fell on it gratefully. Hungover teenagers restored themselves with it. The beauty was the permission it granted. Breakfast whenever you fancied, rules be damned. Ordered with a mug of tea strong enough to stand a spoon in, it was the meal that turned a shopping trip into a proper day out. Nothing said BHS Café quite like a fry-up at tea time. Number 12. Cottage pie brought the taste of home to the top floor. Minced beef in rich gravy under a blanket of mashed potato, forked into peaks and grilled until golden and crisp. A scoop of peas or carrots on the side, a jug of extra gravy if you asked. It was the meal that reminded shoppers of their own mothers' kitchens, hearty and warming and utterly familiar. Older customers ordered it for the comfort, the reassurance of something they had eaten their whole lives. The mash formed a proper crust, the mince below was savory and soft, and the whole thing steamed when you broke into it. It cost a few pounds and filled you until tea time. In a world that was speeding up, the cafe cottage pie held its ground, slow and honest and unhurried, a little dish of nostalgia served with a spoon and a smile. Number 11. Steak and kidney pie with chips and gravy was the meal for a serious appetite. A pie with a proper pastry lid, the filling dark and rich with chunks of beef, and the unmistakable tang of kidney. A river of gravy poured over the chips beside it. Some cafes served it as a pudding, steamed in suet, but the pie version won the most loyalty. It arrived hot enough to burn your mouth if you were greedy, and everyone was greedy. Men ordered it after a morning of being marched round the shops, restoring themselves with pastry and meat and a mug of tea. The gravy soaked into everything, the way gravy should. It was unglamorous, unfashionable, and quietly magnificent. When the cafe closed its doors, it took with it one of the last places on the high street where you could sit down to a proper pie and gravy without a second thought. Number 10. Chicken curry and rice was the cafe's daring nod to the wider world. A mild, gentle curry, the sauce a cautious yellow, dotted with sultanas and served over a mound of white rice with a poppadom perched on top if you were lucky. It was curry for people who did not really eat curry, warming and sweetish and entirely unthreatening. For decades, this was as adventurous as the department store menu got, and shoppers ordered it feeling faintly worldly. The rice was often a little claggy, the chicken soft, the whole thing more comforting than fiery. But it filled a gap on the menu and introduced a generation to the idea that dinner could taste of something beyond gravy. Ordered with a naan or a slice of bread, it was Britain's tentative first date with the flavors that would one day become the nation's favorite. Modest, mild, and quietly historic. Number 9. The toasted tea cake was the mid-afternoon ritual that fueled the whole enterprise. A fruited tea cake split and toasted, oozing with melted butter that ran down your fingers and had to be chased with a napkin. It came on a small plate beside a pot of tea, and together they formed the cafe's most enduring double act. Shoppers who wanted a rest but not a meal ordered this, sinking into a chair with their bags and their aching feet. The currants caught and caramelized under the grill, the butter pooled in the nooks, and the first warm, sweet bite was worth the whole trip. It cost less than £1 and bought you 20 minutes of peace. Grandmothers and grandchildren shared them, tearing off buttery pieces. Simple as it was, the toasted tea cake carried the soul of the place, the small, warm, unhurried pleasure of sitting down in the middle of a busy day. Number 8. The scone with jam and cream turned an ordinary cafe into a proper afternoon tea. A fat scone, split and warm, spread thick with strawberry jam and a generous dollop of clotted or whipped cream. The eternal debate raged, jam first or cream first, and the cafe stayed diplomatically silent on the matter. Served on a saucer beside a pot of tea, it lent a whiff of the tea room to the top floor of a department store. Ladies made an occasion of it, dabbing crumbs from their laps and topping up the pot. The scone was sometimes a day old, but slathered in jam and cream, nobody minded a bit. It was affordable indulgence, a treat that felt grander than its price. For a couple of pounds you could pretend, just for half an hour, that you were somewhere far more genteel than the cafe above the menswear. Number 7. Bakewell tart brought a slice of the cake counter's glory to the table. Short crust pastry, a layer of raspberry jam, a dense almond frangipane, and either a glossy white icing with a single glace cherry on top, or a scattering of flaked almonds. Each slice was cut generously and served with a fork that struggled against the firm filling. The almond scent of it was unmistakable, sweet and slightly marzipan, the taste of a proper old-fashioned bake. Shoppers with a sweet tooth eyed it through the glass of the counter and rarely resisted. It paired perfectly with a pot of tea, the sweetness cut by the bitterness of a strong brew. For decades it held pride of place among the puddings, a cake that felt both humble and special. When the cafe shut, the great glass cake counter went with it, and slices like this passed quietly into memory. Number 6. The Victoria sponge was the queen of that glorious cake counter. 2 golden layers sandwiched with jam and buttercream, dusted with a snowfall of icing sugar, cut into wedges tall enough to topple. It was the cake your Nan made, recreated on an industrial scale, and no worse for it. Light, sweet, and comforting, it was the pudding that shoppers ordered when they simply wanted cake, and nothing clever. The buttercream squeezed out at the sides when you pressed it with a fork, and the jam left a smear of red on the plate. Served with tea, it was the very picture of a British afternoon. The cafe's cake counter, gleaming under glass, was for many the real reason to climb those stairs. and the Victoria sponge was its crowning glory. Ordinary, familiar, and utterly beloved, it was the taste of every birthday and every visit to Grandma's house. Number 5. Apple pie and custard was the hot pudding that ended a proper cafe dinner. A wedge of apple pie, the pastry thick and the apples soft and cinnamon sweet, drowned in a pool of yellow bird's custard, poured from a steel jug. It arrived steaming, the custard forming a skin at the edges before you had even picked up your spoon. On a cold day, after fish and chips or a jacket potato, it was pure heaven, the sort of pudding that made you loosen your coat and settle in. Children ate the custard first. Adults savored the contrast of hot pastry and warm custard. It cost little and delivered everything a British pudding should: warmth and sweetness and the deep comfort of school dinner nostalgia. When cafes like this vanished, so did the simple joy of a hot pudding and custard eaten among the buzz of a busy shop floor. Number 4. Sherry trifle wobbled its way into every shopper's heart. Layers of sponge soaked in sherry, fruit, and jelly, a thick blanket of custard, whipped cream on top, and a final flourish of hundreds and thousands, or a grating of chocolate. Served in a glass dish or a plastic tub, it revealed all its strata when you dug in, the spoon passing through cream and custard and jelly in one glorious sweep. It was the pudding of celebration, the taste of Christmas and Sunday best, offered every day of the week under the cafe lights. Older shoppers ordered it and were transported straight back to their childhoods. The sherry was never more than a whisper, but it made the whole thing feel grown up and indulgent. Cool, creamy, and layered with memory, the trifle was one of the cafe's most quietly magnificent offerings, and one of its most mourned. Number 3. The Knickerbocker glory was the treat every child in Britain begged for. A towering glass, so tall the spoon barely reached the bottom, filled with scoops of ice cream, jelly, tinned fruit, a swirl of raspberry sauce, a mountain of squirty cream, and a wafer poking out of the top like a flag on a summit. It cost more than the rest of the menu combined, and it was worth every penny of the pleading. Children who had endured a whole morning of dress shopping were rewarded with this glittering tower, and the whole cafe seemed to watch as it was carried over. The long spoon, the digging down through the layers, the race against the melting, the fight over the cherry. It was pure theatre. For a generation of British children, the BHS Knickerbocker glory was the height of luxury, and its disappearance took a small, sweet piece of childhood with it. Number 2, the roast dinner turned a weekday shopping trip into a Sunday. A carvery-style plate piled with slices of beef or turkey, roast potatoes, a Yorkshire pudding, boiled veg, and a generous flood of gravy over the lot. It was the meal that made the cafe feel like a proper restaurant, the one families ordered when the trip into town was a real occasion. The roast potatoes were crisp, the Yorkshire soaked up the gravy, and the meat, though modest, satisfied completely. Pensioners who lived alone came in for it midweek, the closest thing to a home-cooked roast without the washing up. For a few pounds, it delivered the full comfort of a Sunday dinner any day you fancied one. It was hearty, generous, and deeply British, a proper meal at a proper table. When the cafe closed, thousands lost the one affordable roast that came without a single pan to scrub. And finally, in first place, the pot of tea and a slice of cake was never really about the food at all. It was about sitting down. 2 people, a steaming pot with its little steel lid, a jug of milk, and a slice of something sweet shared between them. Mothers and daughters, old friends, a widow and her memories, all found their place at those formica tables. The tea came strong and endless, refilled from the pot until it stewed. The cake was whatever caught your eye at the counter. But the meal was the company. The rest, the ritual of pausing in the middle of a busy day to simply be together. For decades, the BHS Café was Britain's living room on the high street, a place to set down your bags and your worries alike. That is what we lost in 2016. Not just the meals, but the sitting down. That was our countdown of the 25 forgotten BHS Café meals, the dishes that fed a nation between the escalators and the exit. If you remember queuing with a tray, fighting over the cherry on a Knickerbocker Glory, or sharing a pot of tea with someone you loved, tell me in the comments which meal you'd order one last time, because the shops are gone, but the memories still steam.